عليه أفضل الصلاة وأتم التسليم. I believe we are at now 102, you say? Yes, 102. Okay, so let's continue right off 102. Very quickly, we are at a stage in this particular surah where Allah is now also addressing all those who did not partake in the expeditions and battles of the Prophet with the Prophet ﷺ, those who did not have good reason to do so, and those who did. Okay, so those who had good reason, what was their outcome? What was their destiny with Allah Subhanahu wa Taala in terms of reward? And what we did say is a couple of things. Number one, even if they did not go along with him, meaning they decided that, you know what, Ya Rasulullah, you go ahead, we can't make it, maybe the next time, we're busy, or, kids are, still young, I'm injured, grandpa's paralyzed, etc. They had good reason. They had good reason. Allah says that for those individuals, they will have their compensation in the sight of Allah, meaning the fact that they even just had an intention, they wanted to, but circumstances didn't allow them, they will still get compensation from Allah Azza wa Jal, as opposed to those who just made up stuff. I wanted to go, but something came up, I had to go and, I had to go and repair something. I had to go get food and water for my family. Like something just rational or irrational came up and they just threw that excuse. Allah is paying full attention to all of that. And they will also get their recompense with Allah Azza wa Jal. So with that being said, فَأُولَٰئِكَ عَسَى اللَّهُ أَن يَعْفُوا عَنْهُمْ was the previous ayah, where Allah Azza wa Jal says, now I believe this is in page 76 in your booklets, فَأُولَٰئِكَ عَسَى اللَّهُ أَن يَعْفُوا عَنْهُمْ. So these, it may be Allah will pardon them, and Allah is pardoning and forgiving. Who is Allah pardoning here, students? Those who came before or last week. Remember we talked about a concept called hila. So Allah says that everybody will have a pretty awful ending. وَسَاءَتْ مَصِيرًا. Everybody will have a pretty awful ending. We're talking about, in context, those who did not participate in battle with the Prophet ﷺ. They're all going to get an awful ending, except for a couple of people, a couple groups. إِلَّا الْمُسْتَضْعَفِينَ مِنَ الرِّجَالِ وَالنِّسَاءِ. Except the weak from men and women. That's one. مستضعفين من الرجال والنساء والولدان لا يستطيعون حيلة, and children who have no means to really put on a show. Hila, we said, is what? Does anybody remember? What kind of excuse? It's a trickery or excuse, but what kind? What was unique about hila? We said there's one particular thing very unique about it. Okay? Here's a quick recap. It's a kind of trickery. Where is it? 98. Here it is. Look, take a look at the screen in front of you. So it's a kind of way to trick somebody, to deceive somebody, so that you can just be like, oh, thank God I didn't have to go. It's a good thing I faked that injury. It's a good thing I have a real big migraine. I can't come with you, Ya Rasulullah. I'm so sorry. And then after he's gone, everything's just fine. That's called hila. It's when you come up with an excuse, but the excuse is an attempt to try to get out of a responsibility or something that you are called for. So, وَلَا يَهْتَدُونَ السَّبِيلَ, or also a group of people who just simply don't have the means to make it there, whatever that could be. They lack the energy, the resources, money, supplies, etc. Then they are also exempted. So what did Allah say about this group? That is when Allah turns and He says, فَأُولَٰئِكَ عَسَى اللَّهُ أَن يَعْفُوا عَنْهُمْ. For these individuals, Allah will pardon them. Students, very quickly, what is the difference between pardoning and forgiving? What does Allah say that He will pardon and then He will also forgive? In this same ayah, وَكَانَ اللَّهُ عَفُوًّا غَفُورًا. He will pardon and He is most forgiving. So He was the one that is pardoning and also forgiving. What's the difference between the two? So that is this one here. Here. What's the difference? You know how you say in Ramadan, Allahumma innaka afuun tuhibbul af, fa'fu anna. Allah, you're the one that you love to pardon. You're the one who pardons. You love to pardon, so pardon us. Why not just ask Allah to forgive you? End of Surah Al-Baqarah. Wa'fu anna waghfir lana warhamna. Someone talk to me. Yeah.
Is to pardon those sins that we can't keep track of.
Sure. Very good. Everybody understand that? When you ask Allah for His pardon, what you're asking Allah is to pardon you for the things that you don't even remember. You can't keep track of. You don't even know. Every single day of our lives, we will fall into error and mistake. Does not matter if you attach a device to you and you monitor every single movement, every single brain wave, every single heartbeat, your mind, your movements, something will happen where it will fall into error. It's just the way that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created us. You know what's interesting? This goes back even till the time of when Adam alayhi salam was created. He was molded. Allah blew the ruh in him, right? And when that happened, what did Adam alayhi salam immediately do when life was given to him? He did what? He sneezed. Without even being taught anything. What does he say? Really interesting. Really, really incredible. Without being taught anything, his natural fitrah in him was to just respond, Alhamdulillah. You know what's interesting? That is the same thing one will say before they enter Jannah. So it's the beginning of creation and it's also the end of creation. Alhamdulillah. So even despite him saying that, the soul begins, it travels through, from his chest or from his face, etc. But as the soul continued to travel down to the rest of his body, by the time it reached around his lower waist area, stomach area, the legs were still numb. They were still paralyzed in the sense there was no life in them. What did Adam alayhi salam try to do? He tried to walk. You know what Allah said when that happened? خُلِقَ الْإِنسَانُ مِنْ عَجَلٍ. Mankind, you were created to do things in a rush. Just relax, wait. Be patient. And that ayah is captured in what? Surah Al-Hajj. What's the one thing, those of you who have either gone to Hajj or Umrah, what's the one thing people you just can't control? If you're trying to go with the crowd, there's always that one group that does what? Bulldoze their way through. خُلِقَ الْإِنسَانُ مِنْ عَجَلٍ. It's the only time in the entire Qur'an Allah mentions it in this particular surah, which is really interesting. Anyhow, فَأُولَٰئِكَ عَسَى اللَّهُ أَن يَعْفُوا عَنْهُم. So it's to pardon us for the things we just cannot keep track of. وَاغْفِرْ لَنَا, and of course, to forgive us as well. Okay. Anyhow, so with that being said, let's continue. So we come now to verse number 102. Okay? وَمَن يُهَاجِرْ فِي سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ. Or actually, yeah, one second. 102. Okay. وَإِذَا كُنْتَ فِيهِمْ فَأَقَمْتَ لَهُمُ الصَّلَاةَ فَلْتَقُمْ طَائِفَةٌ مِّنْهُمْ مَعَكَ وَلْيَأْخُذُوا أَسْلِحَتَهُمْ. So, what you're looking at in front of you, this long verse, if you go to page 78, lots of things are going to start to happen in this verse. So now, back into the midst of the battle. This ayah, if you want to make a note, this ayah 102 is how Allah teaches us a very special type of prayer called Salatul Khawf, as you see in front of you, right? Prayer when it is done in the midst of fear. Not when you're scared of something. It's when you're in the midst of fear. You're in it. People are attacking you. People have drawn weapons in front of you. So in our context today, think about, brothers and sisters in Palestine and Syria and so on. And when it comes time for Jum'ah, when it comes time for any prayer, the masajid can't always be guaranteed that it'll be open 5 times a day. And even if it is, there's no guarantee that if they do come out, the people do come out and pray, that they won't be subject to any kind of attack or something destructive. And it has happened, hasn't it, right? People praying in Masjid al-Aqsa and other sacred places and so on. It has happened where people are in prayer and something, great tragedy happens and many lives are hurt or lost. So prayers like this come into play. So what is Salatul Khawf and how is it prayed? It's verse number 102. So if you ever want to know how to pray the prayer of Salatul Khawf, it is captured in this particular surah. So let's look at it. When you are among them and you stand to lead them in prayer, who is Allah talking to? The Prophet ﷺ, okay? And you stand to lead them in prayer. So here's the first thing. Note it. Jama'ah prayer still obliged in them whilst they are in the middle of war. They still have to pray in Jama'ah. It's not going to be like, okay, I'll cover you guys, go in behind that rock and just pray your, make Jama'ah and Qasr and you'll be good. No. Prophet ﷺ is leading. There's a group behind him, but lots of things change. Let a group of them stand with you. So what happened to the Jama'ah? Second point, split in two. So take Isha for example. If that was done in Salatul Khawf, that Jama'ah split in two. Okay? Half will pray and half won't. What is the other half doing? They're in battle. They're protecting, but they're also defending, etc. Right? They're still engaged in battle. So now you have a selected few. So let them stand with you. Let them hold their weapons. Third thing, what are you allowed to do when you're in war? So the sword, the weapon, whatever it is, can still remain in your hand. Right? For obvious reasons. Then, when they have done their sujood, so first rak'ah, what's happening? Prophet ﷺ is in the front, half the jama'ah is following him with their weapons in their hand. They pray the first rak'ah. When they are done their sujood, meaning they've done two sajda, now they're about to stand up for which rak'ah? The second. Come forward. Let them withdraw to the rear. The jama'ah would literally get up and get out of the prayer. One rak'ah is finished. Get up, leave the prayer. Who is still imam here? Prophet ﷺ doesn't move. He's still leading the jama'ah. He is coming up in second rak'ah. Everybody understand? Okay. And let another group, guarantee you'll get that opportunity. Is that correct? But here's another interesting point here to note. If the first group completed their prayer with the Prophet ﷺ, right? And then they got up and said, okay, guys, we're done. You guys all go make your own jama'ah and pray. What's the problem with this? The imam, what is it? There's other companions that can be imams, but what's really missing here? Yeah, absolutely. And when it's needed. Yeah, no. Salatul Khawf is actually a chapter in fiqh books as well. Like you can go through all the different opinions, etc. So it is a legislated type of prayer, right? Not exclusive to the Prophet ﷺ. But how it was...
They were switching because to have the same imam.
Oh, same thing. So we are just adding the fact that it's Prophet ﷺ. One of them would be like, oh, lucky them, huh? They got to pray with him. Okay, Abu Bakr, you just lead, I guess. Avoid all of that. But in this case, the same exact scenario can still be played out here. Because why? Again, you can't afford to split it and have two jama'ah, etc., right? Or even have one for that matter. So the other group will come in. They will come forward and pray with you. And let them take their precautions and their weapons. So same exact scenario. Those who disbelieve. And that's how they would complete, by the way. So who has prayed what and what's happened here? How many raka'ats did the jama'ah pray? They prayed two. How? One stepped out after the first raka'ah. When the imam is in the second raka'ah, that second group joined. So the one who got out, when do they come back and finish? Or how did that work? Because right now, both jama'ah prayed only one raka'ah. It's just the imam that finished two. So what happens? Does anybody have any thought on this?
So the one who prayed first, he will pray third one with Rasulullah. The one who prayed second, they will pray fourth with Rasulullah.
Got it? So what's happened here that's not mentioned? So if this was like Isha, for example, what has just happened? How many rak'ats altogether did each jama'ah get for a particular, like Isha? Did they pray 4 or 2? So what do you also capture from this? That there is qasr involved in this. Got it? So at the end of the day, When one joins for the third, the others join for the fourth, they each got. And the Prophet ﷺ, he's still protected because he has guards around him. He can finish his complete salah. Now it's essential in context that the Prophet ﷺ is doing 4 and not 2. Why doesn't he just do 2? And then pray another 2 or something like that? Why didn't Allah just split it? Make him do 4, but the rest of the jama'ah do 2. Should be obvious. He's the Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, right? You want him in dua more than anybody else there, right? You want him speaking to Allah more than anyone else. The point is do you see how beautiful and perfect this system is? When I learned this the first time, I was just like, my God, that's in war. You still gotta pray, and there's people who just make the choice not to pray. This is when these Sahabas and anybody similar to are actually engaged in battle. Bullets are firing back and forth. There's one-on-one combat. It's time for Maghrib. We've got to split. You just think about the level of coordination and planning that has to involve in all of this for this thing to run smoothly. And obviously, nobody is hurt in the process, right? Now, you'll see some other really interesting things about the fiqh of war and how it's done in the Qur'an, okay? But continuing, those who disbelieve, okay? Those who disbelieve would like to neglect your weapons and would like you to neglect your weapons and your equipment. That's for obvious reasons, right? They're just waiting. So the opposition is just waiting for the Sahabas to do what? For 1 second, they put down their sword. Because they need to get down in sajda properly or something, right? Just for 1 second. So what do you also see in terms of imagery in this ayah? There are some of the mushrikun and Quraysh, there are some of them that are just waiting. There are some that are still engaged with the group that's not praying, but there are others, they're just like, okay, wait. Let's see what happens. Okay, they bow down, maybe they're going to drop something. Unbelievable, incredible detail. So they can attack you in a single assault. You commit no error if you are hampered by... So look, here are some of the exceptions. If rain suddenly starts pouring out of nowhere, or one of you become weakened and sick by putting down your weapons. So here's the exception. So in كان بكم أذى من مطر أو كنتم مرضى أن تضعوا أسلحتكم. So as a result of these two things, so why would rain be a reason for these companions to put down their shields and so on? Why? What do you think is the connection here? When you walk out, right now it's raining. When you walk out there, do you enjoy the idea of even carrying bags in your hand? Why? Because you want to just keep yourself together and do what? Just get where you're going, shelter in your car, etc., right? So naturally, it's very uncomfortable. 10 times more in this situation. So Allah is saying, okay, if you did that for these reasons, by putting down your weapons, then what do you need to do? Make sure you take extra precautions, so be vigilant. So it's not like, so literally this is how it's going to look. They're about to go down, they've got their sword tucked in here, their shield is tied behind them somehow. They're about to go down for ruku', and they're kind of doing this. And this is allowed in Salatul Khawf. Keep in mind, the rules in prayers like this are slightly lessened. They're not as strict. So you can do something like this, Allahu Akbar, and go down in ruku'. Okay? Just to be vigilant. Because why? Allah is saying, be cautious, look around. So you don't necessarily have to do all of the little things that we usually do in our prayers. Indeed, Allah has prepared for the disbelievers a demeaning punishment. So, a couple of things obviously is that when you think about the importance of prayer, what this tells you is one very important benefit to keep in mind. Don't ever forget. One day is incomplete without prayer. One day of your life is not complete unless you have salah. However you want to note that. So even in battle and war is not over, can't continue, it makes no sense if you're not praying. It's incredible. And the second thing that we mentioned is, of course, if Islam gave this much importance to prayer, that it had to be done in circumstances like this, and they were still accountable if they didn't, what is Allah going to do with the people who were like careless in their prayer, who chose not to pray, who thought prayer wasn't important? What is Allah going to do with them? What is Allah going to say to them, and considering this situation? Mm-hmm.
In which the price was so heavy that one of the prayer time was lower and getting to Allah to
Yes. So this is also, this could potentially happen as well. But sometimes you would gather yourself to pray on time, but the situation doesn't allow that. And you know, this could be like a strategy that the opposition would use. Okay, let's really intensify our attack when we see that prayer time is about to roll out. Right? So in order to really get them off course and really confuse what they're trying to do. What do you do in this case? This actually happened even with our Prophet ﷺ. What do you do in this case? Don't do anything. You know, if prayer needs to be delayed because of life and death, prayer is what? It's delayed, right? This is one of the reasons where prayers can be done when they can be done. You understand? So, although the timings are incredibly strict and precise, just keep that in mind. If you cannot, some ulama did, however, there is no one principle across the board. Some scholars still said you are still obliged to pray on time, despite you are physically unable. What should you do? Spiritually, in your heart, in your mind at least. So, believe it or not, if I remember correctly, it was Imam al-Shafi'i rahimahullah that had one opinion on this, that so even if you're in battle, you're like this, Allahu Akbar, Sami'a Allahu liman hamida, and you're just in battle. Yeah, you're still, he says, just still utter the phrases at least, so that you can at least keep some direction and focus. And then literally, you know, Tahiyatu lillahi wa salatu wa tayyibatu, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah, assalamu alaikum, and just keep going. To me, again, it just adds to how incredibly important prayer is, right? Let's continue, because lots of other things are going to start to unfold here. Next verse. So that's 102. Notes are all over the place. Okay. 103. فَإِذَا قَضَيْتُمُ الصَّلَاةِ. Allah says, when you have completed. So when you have completed the prayer, remember Allah standing or sitting or on your sides. And when you feel secure, perform the prayer. The prayer is obligatory for the believers. فَإِذَا طَمَأْنَنْتُمْ فَأَقِيمُوا الصَّلَاةِ إِنَّ الصَّلَاةَ كَانَتْ عَلَى الْمُؤْمِنِينَ كِتَابًا مَوْقُوتًا. Have you heard this verse before? Prayer has been specified or given to us at specific times. Have you ever walked into some masjids and they have that written on the wall? Beautiful calligraphy. They'll have إِنَّ الصَّلَاةَ كَانَتْ عَلَى الْمُؤْمِنِينَ كِتَابًا مَوْقُوتًا, right? That prayer has been prescribed to us specific times. Now here, listen to the context. Okay? We're still in what? In battle, war. Number 1. 2. Allah says when you completed the prayer, what does He say to do next? فَاذْكُرُوا اللَّهِ. Didn't you just do that? Keep doing it. Just because you're not praying is not a reason to not still be connected with your Creator. A lesson to all of us. Allah said at the end of Surah Ali Imran, الَّذِينَ يَذْكُرُونَ اللَّهَ, those who remember Allah, قِيَامًا. Look what's next in the same ayah. So remember Allah standing. The ayah in Surah Ali Imran, qiyama. In this ayah, qiyama. Okay? Surah Ali Imran, وَقُعُودًا, or sitting. In this ayah, وَقُعُودًا, or sitting. Exactly the same. وَعَلَى جُنُوبِكُمْ. In Surah Ali Imran, وَعَلَى جُنُوبِهِمْ. Same exact, or on your sides. So, Allah tells the companions, whether you're standing, sitting, or you're lying down. When do you lie down in battle? When are you lying down in battle? Let me rephrase that. You're right, when you're dead, right? But let me rephrase that. When you're conscious, what in battle would cause you to intentionally say, okay, I need to just lay down?
Being tired.
When you're tired, you're just like, hey guys, I just need to take a break. I'm going to step out of here. You keep shooting.
Go out on the side from them.
Have any of you seen like those war movies like Saving Private Ryan and then those kinds of things? Do you ever notice? You remember there's like scenes where they'll show you like all the soldiers gathering themselves together. They're having lunch or food. You know, some of them are shaving. Some of them are looking through maps. All the army tanks are moving, trying to get organized, etc. There's this moment where they're not actually engaged in war. And a lot of times what happens, if you watched Forrest Gump, there would be that moment where you'll see a lot of the soldiers when they're not in battle, they're drinking, they're smoking, they're catching up with like movies and doing just a lot of shameful things, right? A lot of things that, you know, generally speaking, is not good for you, shouldn't do it anyway, right? But the point is they kind of use that as downtime to just let themselves free. You know what the believer does? You remember Allah. So when you have your downtime from battle, you know what the companions and the Prophet ﷺ are being ordered to do here? Get into prayer. Start praying tahajjud. Oh, you got some time? You free? Okay. Get up, read some Qur'an. Remember, make dua to me. That's what the companions are taught to do in their downtime. So it's really, it's remarkable because the same stress on their shoulders spiritually for Allah's help in the battle continues and maybe is escalated even more when they're not engaged in battle. Here's the next thing. Allah said standing, sitting, or on their sides. Why not just say, remember Allah all the time? Why split it up like this into three different scenarios? Standing, sitting, or on your side. Why do that? It should be very obvious. Again, imagine yourself in battle. Can everybody stand up when the battle's over? All the soldiers can retreat and be like, okay guys, we're done for today. The dust will settle. And everybody's still just walking back, or is some of them, some are injured, some have lost a leg, some have lost some of their limbs. So Allah says, okay, fadhkurullah, for those who can stand. Next, some can stand, but their backs are gone, they're injured everywhere else. Okay, sit down. And if that is still not, you're totally paralyzed, you're in a stretcher, okay, you're still not exempted. Whilst you're lying down, keep connected with me. And then Allah tells you why. Because when you feel that sense of security and peace, so in other words, no matter how much stress war brings, again, think of every war movie or YouTube clip or anything you've ever seen. That's why, do you notice, like there are lots of reports and things like that you can read about, you can see interviews even of ex-soldiers who went to like Iraq and Afghanistan and served X amount of time. They came back with stress disorders, depression, suicidal thoughts. You know why? Because of everything they've had to see and endure. It wasn't just the actual engagement that they were part of in the war. It was just, oh my God, I saw 400 people just slaughtered right in front of my face all at once. Things like that. So what does Allah say? It's through prayer. It's when you can find some sense of contentment, some sense of peace, some answer to all of this. It's only through salah. It is verses like this that I've always said. It is through prayer you will always find the answers to the things human beings cannot find answers to. It is through prayer you can cope with what life throws at you that human beings do not have the strength nor the capacity to cope with. It is through prayer. Prayer cures all cancers, all diseases. Prayer gives you the strength when everything around you is destroyed or weak. Prayer is the thing that gives you direction when the whole world is lost. That's what salah does. Salah solves all the problems of mankind that mankind do not have the ability to resolve. And it's not on an individual level as well. Even at a social, economical, political level. The whole country is in economic crisis. Allah says, pray. Everything will turn back upside down and be back to normal. Just pray. That's how important salah is. That's why when salah got legislated, it's the only act of worship that Allah did what to His Prophet? Alayhi salatu wasalam. Told him to do what? Come to me. Didn't just give him an ayah, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu sallu. People of man just pray. Said, oh, when it came to inheritance, here are the laws. Here's who gets what. When it came to other fiqh issues, Hajj and Umrah and Ramadan, here's what you do. If you're sick and you're traveling, you don't have to fast. If you're this and that. But when it came to Salah, Allah called him, come to me, and I'm going to give it to you. So it's remarkable how important this is. And we're going to, so that's just, understanding the value and the sweetness of prayer. We're going to come to it in a moment. For all of us who are actually praying, why sometimes that prayer just does not feel like anything it's supposed to feel. Allah knows best. This is just experience with people over the years. I humbly, truly believe that maybe one, it's like, okay, it's prayer time. Okay. So they'll be watching the game and they're like, okay, let's go pray. Let's do the qasr. You read Qul Huwallahu Ahad, first rak'ah. Allahu Samad, second rak'ah, and just split it and let's get back. So you just it became something where you just need to just get it over with. So all of this is going to be captured very soon. So just watch for it, okay? فَإِذَا اطْمَأْنَنْتُمْ فَأَقِيمُوا الصَّلَاةَ. So after Allah says you'll only find the peace despite this chaos going around you in prayer, look what Allah says next. This is the ayah. Now you can appreciate and understand why people put it on their walls everywhere. Allah, the prayer is obligatory for believers at specific times. Every time we bring out this ayah, 99% of the time, they only talk about fiqh. Oh yes, it's specific time. So Fajr starts at this time and it ends at this time. Dhuhr starts at this time and it ends at Asr's got two timings, depending on what madhab you follow, right? Hanafi this and that. Oh, you made your own madhab. Okay, well, we'll figure you out later, right? But in context, what is Allah saying here? Allah is saying that the real essence of you, the sweetness of your prayer lies in when you make the effort to pray it at its time. What Allah is saying to you, prayer will stop feeling like a chore or burden when you discipline the timings of prayer in your life. You start making it a habit that Fajr, your whole day starts with nothing else except the first and foremost item on your list is what? Pray Fajr. Your day does not end until at least you've done your Isha and you've done it on time. This is what Allah is calling you to. So He's basically saying to you that whether it's war or not, I prescribe these timings. And look what Allah said. Who prays, Muslim or mu'min or both? Who prays, Muslim or mu'min or both? Both. Who's mentioned in this ayah? Believers, right? Which is what? Mu'min. What happened to the Muslims? Why aren't they mentioned in this ayah? Why not Allah saying, إِنَّ الصَّلَاةَ كَانَتْ عَلَى الْمُسْلِمِينَ وَالْمُؤْمِنَاتِ كِتَابًا مَوْقُوتًا. Why is Muslim excluded out of this ayah?
Because they pray but not on time.
Not necessarily. They pray on time, but it's not a quality of prayer for them. For the mu'min, there is nothing that stands in your way. When you're like on the road and it's time for Maghrib, you try to find a safe place. Like your body, your brain, your heart goes into autopilot. Oh, Maghrib time, I gotta figure out where to stop. And you just stop somewhere. You're in the mall, grocery store, Wonderland, Niagara Falls, whatever. Salat time. It's really awesome actually. If you go to like places like Niagara where lots of Muslims go to, when Maghrib time or any Salat time happens, you see what happens? There's about 45 jama'ahs everywhere. It's remarkable. People just get into it. And some will be like, yeah, no, I can't pray like this. Right in front of like Ripley's. It's crazy. I can't do that. Some people are like that. Allah is saying, if you create the discipline of prayer at its time, and your life works around this to the best of your ability, by the way. I totally get it. We all get it. It's not always that easy. To the best of your ability, Allah is saying that is a reflection of true Iman. You have true Iman when the most important thing about your prayer is that it's done on time. That's when you have true Iman. Do you see anything in here about fiqh? Make sure your ruku' is straight. Make sure all 7 limbs are touching down on the ground when you're in sajda. Do you see any of that here? Allah says the most important thing is just make sure it's on time. The fiqh stuff comes very quickly afterwards. It's the discipline of this is the hardest thing to do. May Allah give us security and consistency in praying on time, inshaAllah, always and forever. Allahumma ameen. Right? Do you see now why the previous ayah we needed فَأُولَٰئِكَ عَسَى اللَّهُ أَن يَعْفُوا عَنْهُمْ وَكَانَ اللَّهُ عَفُوًّا غَفُورًا? Do you see why we needed Allah to pardon us? Because there are some times where you just can't get to pray on time. You see why we needed Him to pardon us? These are the moments. Okay, moving on. Verse 104? Yeah, 104. وَلَا تَهِنُوا فِي ابْتِغَاءِ الْقَوْمِ. And do not falter in the pursuit of the enemy. If you are aching, they are aching as you are aching. But you expect from Allah what they cannot expect. What is that, by the way? وَتَرْجُونَ مِنَ اللَّهِ مَا لَا يَرْجُونَ. You have hopes in Allah for something that they, the Quraysh and the Mushrik, they don't have hopes for. What is it? Take a look at the paragraph in front of you under that translation. And don't be weak in the pursuit of the enemy. Once again in battle, don't lose heart in the pursuit of your enemy. What happens in conflicts that last a long time? So, sometimes these battles go on for weeks, months, sometimes even years. You know, you have civil wars and things like that go on for 20 and 30 years. What ends up happening? Sometimes those who are participating in it, they don't even know what they're fighting for anymore. It's like, oh God, man, when is this going to end? You know, let's just get this over with. How long do I have to protect this border? I've been protecting it for the past 15 years. I need something else. So what do you lose? When this happens, what are you losing? You're losing motivation, right? You're losing something to keep you going, to keep the spirit of Iman in you. So these are ayat that had to be given to them. Don't lose that, is what Allah is saying. And as you see here, this is your fuel in battle. So Allah tells the believers not to lose that steam, and in case you are hurting, they are hurting just like you. They are ready to preserve, so should you. But you have expectations from Allah they don't have. And what are those expectations? Hope from Allah. Underline that sentence. Hope from Allah is the greatest pain reliever on earth. Just let that sink in for a second. When you have hope in Allah, it's the one thing that removes all of your stress and pain. Everything just either goes away, or you suddenly get motivation and strength to get through. It's fresh in my mind just because I had a few meetings today, counseling meetings of people who are in the midst of divorce. You know how they come in to sometimes they walk into some of these appointments, their shoulders down, head is down. Sheikh, he's taking me to court. I don't know what to do. I've got 6 kids. I'm getting money from everywhere. I'm begging. I'm on social assistance, and now I have to go to court. I don't know what to do. See, when you're in a predicament like that in your life, right? When you're in a situation like that in your life, whether it be similar to this divorce or something else, at a personal level even. So young people, parents, especially those of you with teenagers, what's the number one stress that your kids have? Let's see how much you know about your children's lives. What's the number one stress on your kids' mind? 24 hours. Did somebody just say mom? Dad? No. Something even more stressful than peer pressure. Academics. to just pass. God, if I fail this exam, or if I don't get this mark and I can't get into the college or university I want to, oh my God. You know, and some students go into like serious depression as a result. And even if they do make it, if they just kind of cross borderline, it's still not enough. It's like, I just made it. I can't even finish the first semester in college or uni. I can't get it through. And sometimes if they get that one class in college or uni that they failed, and because they paid for it, invested all the time, they prayed all those tahajjuds, they've been up all night doing everything, and they still, oh my God, they still fail it. Some of them, they go into like a serious mental breakdown. This is as real as it gets. You know what another problem that adds to this is that unfortunately a lot of parents out there, generally speaking, just don't see that as something serious. You failed one class, come on, cares? Just, do we have to pay another fee again for you to do it? No problem, I'll pay for it this time. Done. It's not the point. It's about self-worth. You fail one time, why can't you fail again? That's what you have to battle through. How do you encourage and give strength to a student who's never experienced that level of disappointment and stress in their whole life? And it just comes crashing down like a massive mountain. And it's just one course or one test that did that. Really, really an area where we have to concentrate on as well, and or at least not lose sight of. So the point is that here, as we say to you, that it is hope in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That is what the believers always have. And that is the greatest pain reliever. Expectations from Allah will toughen you up and make you do great things. You now have something that a non-believer doesn't. So everybody knows what was missing in the ayah. What is it that they have that the others didn't? Was what? Hope. Make sure you note that, okay? So you understand the message in that ayah. وَكَانَ اللَّهُ عَلِيمًا حَكِيمًا. Why did Allah end this ayah? He is the most knowledgeable and wise. Why? He's the most knowledgeable and wise. We just finished talking about pain and struggle and depression and all of that. Put it together. So go back. I'm not even going to use this scenario because I want all of us to at least relate to this message, okay? Go back to that same kid. They came and told you, yeah, Mom, I can't get I don't want to go back to school anymore. I failed it. You know how you probably all remember this back in your days in school too, right? You know how you get your test back? And that annoying guy beside you, that other student, they're going through all their pages of their project and report. They're like, and there's a big, red 100, 100% A plus at the first page, right? And you're like, oh my God, I made so many mistakes. Look how I colored that letter. SubhanAllah. And you just want to punch them because they're like this, and they're kind of leaning it towards you, like, oh my God, look at this letter. Oh, I drew that line so crooked, man. Gosh. And you're there beside them, right? And you're just like, and even if you didn't hide it, you got like a 73 or something. Even if you didn't hide it, everybody else in the class knows. By doing what? Just by looking at you. Everybody's like, oh my God, wow, look what I got. And you're like, yeah, I got it. I'm good. That excitement, that expression. So some kids, they go to their parents with that. Yeah, Mom, I did. I'm okay. You got to read through this stuff. And these ayat, when Allah says He is Alim, He is the one with all knowledge. He knows what you're feeling when others don't. And when you fail in life at a time or moment you thought you should not have failed, Allah is Al-Hakim. He is the most wise. He knows when and why things happen when they do. This is a lesson for all, and the young people have to get this lesson. You see, what you learn from ayat like this is that you as a parent cannot give you don't have all the answers. And that's a hard, especially when you're a parent, when you become a parent, and all the parents here, that's the hardest sentence you will ever admit to your children. If ever you say that to them. It's the hardest thing to say. Like, you really sit them down and be like, I don't know what to tell you. I don't know how to help you. That's like something no parent ever wants to utter to their kids. And even if you don't know the answer, what do most parents do? You go and you start searching and finding and research, or get somebody else, help my kid, because you don't want to let go and just be like, I can't do anything. It's those are the moments where you need alim and hakima. It's where your kids need to know they gotta just trust Allah's destiny, the faith in Allah that He knows what He's doing, and He knows exactly what's happened here and why it's happening. Everybody understand? So in battle now, it makes sense why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will tell this to these companions. They're losing a lot of that strength. Allah is saying, don't worry, I know why this battle is going on for this X amount of time. I know why after the battle of Uhud, the next one came, and Tabuk, and Ghazwat, this and that, and oh my God. I know why it's happening. You gotta just have hope. Trust me. Next ayah. إِنَّا أَنزَلْنَا إِلَيْكَ الْكِتَابَ بِالْحَقِّ لِتَحْكُمَ بَيْنَ النَّاسِ بِمَا أَرَاكَ اللَّهُ. We've sent down the book with the truth. Don't the companions already know that? Don't they already know that? Why is Allah telling it to them again? 105 verses later, don't they already know the Qur'an is the truth? As a matter of fact, they have the walking Qur'an with them. Prophet ﷺ. Why does Allah say that? Again, to reinforce. So don't just trust me, but also trust my instruction. I know what I'm doing. And I sent down this book, and in it, all these strategies, these military strategies that you guys are using, I know what I'm doing. You got to just understand and trust that this book, it is the ultimate truth. So outside of context, every one of us here can relate to this ayah in our own personal way. That there were moments in your life and in my life, we needed this ayah. Some Muslims need this reminder every day. Some Muslims need it with one particular problem or stress in their life. They need that to remind themselves, I want to do this, but then the Qur'an said no. The Qur'an, he screamed at me, he yelled at me, punched me, or whatever, but the Qur'an said, keep it together. Recently, in Australia, a Muslim family, this was just a few days ago, a Muslim family was sitting in a restaurant in Australia, just having lunch or what have you. No big deal, just sitting there, hijabi, they're all sitting there, not talking to nobody, just amongst themselves. Dude walks in, hater, Islamophobia, whatever, a psycho walks in, starts beating the living daylights out of these poor hijabi sisters. Put them on the floor. Alhamdulillah, nobody died, but seriously injured. So it was an Islamophobic attack. You know what the sister did? After she finally, after some time, was able to muster up some strength and get up and start moving and be like, what in the world? That's all she did. She just kind of got herself to put her hijab back on. Her friends all came. Luckily, alhamdulillah, also there were other people in the restaurant that jumped in before this guy could do any more and pinned him to the ground. So bystanders were there. What did she do? When these people come and they start shouting and coming to your face and telling you everything in the book, what does Allah say? You, mu'min, person of iman, qalu salama, respond, but try to keep yourself together. Don't lower yourself. Don't put yourself at that position. When things get physical, that's a different story. Remember, we came to those verses where you're not fighting back. You're just kind of putting your hands up, blocking from any more blows. So you're in defense, but you're not actually forcing your defense. Those are verses in this surah that we had gone through. So it's like you gotta just at that moment decide what's the best way to handle that moment. I am definitely not saying, nor is the Qur'an saying, take a beating. That's not what it's saying. Obviously, we've been talking about wars and battles. If that was the case, there wouldn't have been such wars and battles, right? So it's just saying to you that whatever your response is at that moment, try to do it in a way that doesn't escalate the situation to the best of your ability, right? So after all is said and done, لِتَحْكُمَ بَيْنَ النَّاسِ بِمَا أَرَاكَ اللَّهُ, so that He may judge between the people by which Allah has shown you. وَلَا تَكُلْ لِلْخَائِنِينَ خَصِيمًا, and do not be for the deceitful an advocate. Kha'in. This is the part, if your last name is like mine, Khan, you don't like it. Because in Arabic, it's not the nicest name. Kha'in, its singular is Khan. And Khan in Arabic, it means somebody who is deceitful. Okay? Yeah, I'm putting myself out there, people. So if you're a Khan, if anybody watching there is a Khan, I'm with you, okay? So in Arabic, so I always remember this. When I was in the University of Medina, and when the attendance is being taken, and they call it Musleh, I have an Arabic name that is known to the Saudis only by the old Bedouins. One man actually once told me, he's like, "Your name is Musleh?" I said, "Yeah." He says, "Wallahi, you never find somebody with this name except they're at least 30, 40 years old." So this is like one of those old classical names. So I'm like feeling all good. I've got like this hardcore Bedouin name, you know? But then, they're looking at, okay, they're going through the attendant. Musleh Khan? Where's Musleh Khan? Where's Musleh Khan? And I just like, and then the question always follows. It's like a sunnah that came on me, right? Where'd you get Khan from? Musleh, mashallah, tabarakallah, aslah, and they start making all these kinds of amazing du'as for me. But then the Khan part. And then you got to explain, actually, it's not from the Arabic language. I got it. It goes back to blah, blah, blah. So don't give your all, don't lose your hopes in that name. I mean, in Arabic it means one thing. In other cultures and languages it means something else. So this ayah, وَكَانَ اللَّهُ عَلِيمًا وَلَا تَكُنْ لِلْخَائِنِينَ خَصِيمًا. So take a look at this paragraph on page 81. Whenever we go back to the ethics of war, the munafiqun are constantly being poked. Historically, there was a Muslim who stole something from a Jew, a bag of flour, and the bag had a hole in it. He left a trail. He just had a feeling that when he got home, that he might get caught. So he goes to another Jewish man's house and asks him to hold on to his flour for a couple of days. So the Muslims trace the flour and find nothing in the Muslim's house, and they find it in whose house? Subhanallah, right? Clearly the trail was making sense that the flour went first to the Muslim's house. However, when the case went to the Prophet ﷺ, the Muslim's thief tribe came and protested to the Prophet ﷺ that he was a good man and he didn't steal, even though the evidence proved otherwise. When you have a community leader such as the Prophet ﷺ, and he is in such a delicate situation, the munafiqun started, pay attention to this, because this is very common in today as well, emotionally manipulating. How could you say that about me? Why would you ever think that about me? I'd never lie. I'd never say that. You know me for X amount of years. Do you ever think I would say such a thing? In West Indian culture, the Guyanese, don't we always say it's the quiet snake that stings the hottest, or has the most vicious sting, right? So just same idea, right? So when you have a community like him and he's emotionally, why aren't you making a decision and started pressurizing him? The Prophet ﷺ understood these people's attempts to manipulate him because Allah gave him insight with this ayah. So at least you have some context of what this ayah was given here. People take advantage of leaders who are soft-hearted. Isn't that true? Now in this context, the book has been sent to the Prophet ﷺ so that you make decisions based on what Allah has shown you. So, when emotional steps in, what does the Muslim do in that case? When emotions step in, so you're in a situation where you have to make a decision between two people or two parties, and one of them has been dedicated to you, trusting, etc. You know them inside out, blah, blah, blah. But all the evidence points that it's on this group as opposed to the other. What do you do in a situation like this? What are you learning from this? Go back to what? Go back لِتَحْكُمَ بَيْنَ النَّاسِ بِمَا أَرَاكَ اللَّهُ. Go back to the book of truth so that you can clearly judge the opinions based on what Allah expects out of you. By the way, extremely difficult thing to do. Secondly, unfortunately, in some societies and culture, it comes with a lot of pain and punishment as well. When you make the right decision. When you have to make the right decision. Sometimes you also have to go through some pain with that. So, an example of it, of course, is, your kid comes home one day and she's like, yeah, Dad, I got suspended. I got into a fight. And then explains the whole fight to you. They got expelled for a week. It's on their school record for till college or uni. They're going to see this stuff. You've got a messed up kid. He's fighting everywhere, right? So you go into the principal's office. The other kid they've got in the fight with yours, their parents are on that side. And they're like, she started it. He started it. He punched me first. As a matter of fact, he stole this from me. He tried to trip me. He did. That's how it all started. And your kid, your Muslim child, no, wallahi, Dad, it's not true. And he started crying in front of you. Oh my God, everything is just like, and you like, to the principal, if you only know my child. My child never ever gets into these kinds of, never. And then the other kid, principal calls in their friend who recorded everything. The bystander who pulled out the cell phone. It's like, yeah, I actually recorded everything. And you see it. Your child did exactly what they're saying. They're accusing him or her of. Now you have to go back home and tell your child, you were wrong. I can't believe you now. You lied to me, and that's wrong. So you got what you deserved. That's not an easy thing to do. Maybe in a parent, maybe it's different because you're constantly put in maybe situations like that. But if you think about it on a personal level, if you were the decision maker, it's not an easy thing to do, especially with people you know who are close friends and family to you. It's a hard thing to say no to them. By the way, trust me, I know. When you're in this job of teaching and preaching this deen, and you travel and you see other communities, this really comes at a massive price, and this is one of them. This is one of them. So, at the end of the day, Allah has shown him that kind of basira. And don't you dare, and don't be one of those who takes judgment and argues from the cheaters. Allah labeled the munafiqun cheaters. So yeah, to add to those of us who our names are Khan, one of the names of the munafiq in the Qur'an is Kha'in. So, I'm not going to say anything else before there's another YouTube video on me about it. وَاسْتَغْفِرِ اللَّهِ إِنَّ اللَّهَ كَانَ غَفُورًا رَحِيمًا. And ask Allah for forgiveness. Allah is forgiving and merciful. Why is that there, students? Because suppose you do make the wrong decision. You did side with the side that you shouldn't have sided with. And you knew it wasn't right. You knew it was... So you went home with that same kid, your child who was at fault, and you're like, you know what, it's okay, man. They deserved it. I never liked them anyway. Let's go to Toys R Us. It's some bizarre thing like that, right? Let's go Baskin and Robbins and just forget about this whole thing. That's what Allah is saying. Hey, that's not right. Don't do that. It's the difference when you're trying to emotionally encourage your child, that's one thing. But when you're trying to make your child feel like they did nothing wrong, that's a whole separate problem. Allah says, that's the case. Whether it be your own children or anybody else. Wastaghfirillah. Ask me for forgiveness, because that's something you need to ask Allah for forgiveness for. إِنَّ اللَّهَ كَانَ غَفُورًا رَحِيمًا, as we've already talked about several times. وَلَا تُجَادِلْ عَنِ الَّذِينَ يَخْتَانُونَ أَنفُسَهُمْ. And don't you make a case on behalf of those who have cheated themselves. إِنَّ اللَّهَ لَا يُحِبُّ مَنْ كَانَ خَوَّانًا أَثِيمًا. Wow. Allah does not love anyone who has always been repeated, perpetual cheater, khawan. So here's something added. This is not somebody who cheated once here or there. Kha'in, you cheated once. Khawan, it's a habit. Dishonest, doing the wrong. And it's just become normal. So, khawan. And they're constantly engaged in this kind of sin. The word azim is interesting here The people that con others in scams, they don't just do one act of crime. A scam can literally ruin somebody's entire life every single day. Their victim is going through harm, and every single harm that their victim faces is a constant addition to their sin. Very, very important. I don't want you to lose that lesson out of this ayah, okay? That at the end of the day, the lesson here is that even if you hurt someone once in one situation and you expect them, oh, just get over it, don't worry, you'll be fine. Just give it time. It doesn't work like that, does it? Never. And sometimes even if you could physically move forward, you can so the whole divorce case is over and you start gathering yourself to move forward. There's still that part in the back here somewhere. Back behind your heart somewhere. It's permanent. And that pain that the person has caused on you, these ayat are telling you, oh, every ounce of that pain you suffer as a result of that moment that happened 45 years ago, 50 years ago, or when that person was alive, they will still be accountable in the sight of Allah for all that pain as it continues. Pretty intense, pretty crazy. These are the ayat. These are ayat that have to be in like marriage courses. They have to be in courses about etiquettes and akhlaq. They have to be in courses about brotherhood. It's in state of war. Allah is saying in the state of war, you can't cheat people. You can't fool anyone. You can't deceive anybody. And if you do, and in context they're hurt and they suffer for that as a result, oh, the rest of their lives, when they have to go get health care and they don't have money to do that, so they have to go find a job and get social assistance, etc. Because why? You injured them wrongfully. You targeted them wrongfully. And as a result, that person got hurt and they shouldn't have. Allah is saying, oh, every ounce of their pain is yours too. Except you're going to get a sin. That pain, I argue, is much worse. That spiritual burden. The last thing we want is somebody else's pain. Somebody else's pain that transpires into sin. The last thing we want is somebody else's problem. Yeah. Okay? يَسْتَخْفُونَ مِنَ النَّاسِ وَلَا يَسْتَخْفُونَ مِنَ اللَّهِ. They don't like to hide their faces from Allah. They are not embarrassed from Allah. They're not embarrassed from Allah. So these people here, وَهُمْ مَعْهُمْ إِذْ يُبَيِّتُونَ مَا لَا يَرْضَى مِنَ الْقَوْلِ. And He is with them while they are spending the entire night plotting. وَكَانَ اللَّهُ بِمَا يَعْمَلُونَ مُحِيطًا. And Allah has always been completely encircled in everything they do. So these people are so embarrassed to show their faces that one could be a con artist and roam around undercover. But once he is exposed, you'll never see them again. Very typical, isn't it? Once they get called out, they're confronted. It was you. You're the one that did that. You're the one that started this whole thing. You're the one that was at fault. You're the one that created this whole rumor, this whole case, the blah, blah, blah. You know, I've been watching a series on Netflix about the drug industry and how it works. Just part of a research of something else that I'm putting together, right? So I wanted to understand how this whole drug world worked. And one scenario that was shown was that you'd have a supplier who would be unknown. Not even his name is known. But he'll have his methods of getting supply. And he'll distribute it to young teens and so on. Give them a section, give them a certain amount of drugs or whatever. They have a certain quota to meet. And then they come back, they give him a call. And by the way, what's really bizarre is that even everybody who's been working for this guy for 10, 15 years, none of them know his name. Not a single one of them know who he is. And they have this link. And I thought to myself, you know, like, if this person was ever exposed or found out, right? Obviously, maybe prison and other things would have happened. But if you take now that same scenario, go back to marriage. You know, I spent a lot of time in marriage problems, right? And counseling and hearing different things. So do you notice that a lot of marriage problems, maybe 80% of the time, there's a third party interference somewhere? And sometimes it could be years before you discover who that is. You know, your spouse, husband or wife, would be like, and you're just like, why are you talking like that? I've never heard you talk like that before. And then that just goes on. And he says the same thing. Why are you acting that way? This is not like you. And then you let it go the first 25 times, right? It's like, oh, forget it. Then it starts to get a little bit burdensome. It's annoying and it's causing problems. You know, so then it goes from confronting, why are you being like that, to, I'm not going to sit with you. You know what, just go in the other room. I don't want to see you right now. To real serious issues. I don't think I can live with you anymore. And then as those moments escalate, then you find out, it was your dad that was telling you to do all of that? The man I've been helping, I've been mowing his lawn, shoveling his driveway. We've been going driving and fishing together. That's the guy that's been telling you to do all of that to me? That's what these ayat are about. Allah is saying what? وَكَانَ اللَّهُ بِمَا يَعْمَلُونَ مُحِيطًا. As they went back hiding, Allah is encircled in every single ounce of movement and step they're involved in. Oh, just because the marriage broke and you guys split up and the in-laws went that way and you went the other way, it doesn't mean that Allah forgot about them. Allah's still watching and monitoring everything that they're even thinking about. So let's say a marriage broke this way and then all of a sudden you start getting these weird emails, these weird like Facebook messages of random people insulting you, putting you down. Like, who are these people? You're blocking, you're reporting, and nothing's stopping. And then you realize, oh, wait a minute, it's him again. Yeah, he's doing it. Allah is saying, oh, I'm all of it. So the idea here is that everything is still being tallied, even though the circumstance has split and broken apart. The after effects are still being counted against them. Subhanallah, man. This is something that people really, really have to learn and understand. Last ayah. ها أنتم هؤلاء ها أنتم هؤلاء جادلتم عنهم في الحياة الدنيا. So we're on 109. There you are arguing on their behalf in the present life. فَمَنْ يُجَادِلُ اللَّهُ عَنْهُمْ يَوْمَ الْقِيَامَةِ أَمَّنْ يَكُونُ عَلَيْهِمْ وَكِيلًا. But who will argue with Allah on their behalf on the day of judgment? Or who will be their representative? Who's Allah talking about here? So there you are, arguing on their behalf in the presence of Allah. But who will argue with Allah on their behalf on the day of judgment? What is this talking about? Somebody just put this together, simpler language for me, so we understand the message here. What's happened here? So there you are. Who? Who are you in this in everything here? What are you? So that's fine. You can defend yourself. You can argue. Your right mind would want to just settle a dispute with Allah. So, you know, I am very sure, Allah knows best, but I'm sure all of you have a story that fits into these ayat. Right? And you have a story of something in your life, someone or a group of people who have done things to you. And although it may have disintegrated, they're out of your life or they've gone, you've moved forward. But your pain is there every day of your life. These are the ayat for you. As a matter of fact, our Prophet ﷺ told us that there is a bridge just before you enter Jannah called Al-Qantara. Okay? Have you heard of a bridge called the Sirat? Prophet ﷺ says the Sirat is thinner than a sword and it has spikes on it. But the stronger your faith is, you zoom past it just like a shooting star. But then there's a smaller bridge that's so you have the Sirat, and at the end you have a bridge that kind of just, it's a bridge that goes up a little, right? This bridge is called Qantara. This bridge is right at the gates of Jannah. Everybody who makes it past a Sirat will have to stop here. And something is going to happen here. Does anybody know what this is? Anybody you had disputes with, you have to settle it before you walk into Jannah. Think about it. Some people live their whole life and not settle their disputes here. Like, yeah, whatever. We're not family anymore, so who cares? I don't have to ever see them and live with them again. Oh yeah, don't worry. There's going to be a reunion. Al-Qantara. The Qantara bridge is only there for unsettled disputes. And the hadith continues. Hold on, it's not over. Hadith continues. Look what's going to happen. They're on the Qantara. And Allah will ask, this person, do you want to forgive them for what they've done to you? And so that whole thing started where you saw the person and you asked Allah, oh Allah, that's the person that did this to me. I want their deeds. Because we know that's how it works, right? You wrong somebody, one of the punishment is you get a compensation of their deeds, right? Given to you. So the servant asks, I want their deeds. Then Allah just says, will you forgive them today? And if so, Allah shows them a big palace in Jannah. If you forgive them, this is yours. And you know what's remarkable about this hadith? The servant is actually given the opportunity to decide. Allah is just like, what do you want to do? Now here's the thing. Do you understand the dilemma here? You pass the sirat. You can see the doors of Jannah. It's like right in front of you. All you got to do is just like go up there and it opens. And now if you say no, I don't want to forgive him, then you're going to have to settle your dispute here until it's done. But the person who says, I forgive them, Ya Rab, because you saw the incredible additional reward for you. And so what does Allah do? Allah makes taslih. Allah corrects the hearts of those individuals that now they don't have a dispute with you anymore. Now they love you. And how did this happen? It's because somewhere inside of you, Allah gave you the strength to say, you know what, Ya Rab, I forgive him. And I will, and then Allah will give you. So this, keep in mind, this also tells you that even in akhirah life, the more you do, you also get the equivalent of your effort. So you make the extra effort, you forgive, you look behind, you say, okay, forget it, whatever. You get a palace. They might get a house or get something else, but the point is, Allah will eliminate, because there is no such thing as dispute in Jannah. There's only brotherhood and sister, right? There's only that bond. That's the only thing. There is no dispute in existence. So that has to be cleared. Now, what does that mean for you that you're still alive? Think about it. That's what it means. Think about that maybe one of the tools that you may need to use to heal from a past is just to forgive and forget. And if you do choose to do that, then just realize maybe one day you will be on that Qantara bridge. And because of what the decision you made in this world, Allah will not even pause you on that bridge. Go. All of Jannah is yours. And our Prophet ﷺ, several hadith, not just this one, several different hadith, told us about the incredible incentive and reward for the person who makes the choice to forgive those who wrong them. I'm not saying to you to let people off the hook. What I am saying to you is that after you've gone through all these stages of your life to try to heal and rectify these disputes and so on, and it didn't work, or it escalated, or it created other problems, that maybe your healing is just to forgive and forget. Put it behind you. So I'm going to pause here, inshallah. May Allah give us strength, and may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala keep our hearts united. There was only 3 verses, and then we would have finished that entire section and get into the last section that takes us to the end of the surah. So we're not too bad. Inshallah ta'ala, we'll continue. We're going to continue at the same pace, maybe even more. So just when you do come next week as well, please remember to come with your game face. Lots of things that we still have to talk about in this surah. And also, I do notice that there are some who are here, some who aren't. Like whatever your reason is for not being here is your. You don't have to come and tell me anything. I just want you to know, like, you're missing out on a lot with each session. So just decide, if you're still able to keep up and try to organize yourself in a way, the best way that you can, to be here with us. We only have a few sessions left, inshallah, and then we should be done with this subject, okay? سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك